Hello everyone, my name is Cobalt Cox and I'm the art director here at Studio 229. Whew. And I just oversee a lot of the art development and art direction, and especially in this way as it's related to Killer Bunnies from Mars, our current title. And I'm just here to share some of the development of that and how it's progressing, and I would love to get your feedback just as you guys watch these videos on what's interesting and what do you guys find the most enjoyable to learn about, or what's the most practical for you guys to learn about as you guys develop your own games, or whatever your interest in games is, or even other areas, because we want to contribute to that as well, to make it a two-way communication instead of just a one-way communication, right? So let's get started. So first off, I'm going to show you guys a little bit about the city that we're designing, which is the main setting of Killer Bunnies from Mars. And then I'll show you guys a little bit of a weapon design that just came out of the great Clockworks. First off, I'll show you guys the city, which I've opened right now in Unreal, which is our game engine of choice, as you guys know, if you've been following any of the other videos. First off, I'll talk about just what the basic methodology and approach is to the city, all the way from just an idea conceptual stage to where it is currently, and then project a little bit of where we're going into the future and our next steps. So first off, we kind of all just sat down, thought about the city, where it would be at, what kind of landmarks would be there, what kind of businesses and people would be there, and really thought about the history of the city and where it's located. I'm not going to tell you guys that just yet, just to hide some things, right? So that will be revealed a little bit later. And there's quite a fun lore behind the city and its location and why it is the way it is, and at what time period it is in. You might be able to deduce some of this from the videos and from what I am showing you and going to show you in the future, but I'll let you guys use your imaginations on that for the time being. But basically, as we kind of began to build this whole world, as we sat down to meet about the city and development of it, and what that looks like, and the people and the jobs and the buildings and structures, we kind of built this really big image, and kind of got it built up the whole world of it. And from there, I kind of approached it from just a top-down view and started drawing out the city, the streets, and the businesses where those would be located, and things like that. And then brought that into a 3D modeling program and top-down orthographic, and kind of just started designing almost architecturally. So from like a floor plan layout, and just started building up three-dimensionally, to get a really loose blocked out city. And that's what we had in the phase before this. I wish I had that to show you guys, but it's kind of jumping straight into this. So and from there, it kind of has been kind of just progressively iterated and refined and refined and refined to what works with gameplay, what's the best indicators, what is compositionally looks right. And I'll explain a little bit more on that here as I progress too. So as the city grew and developed, we started doing quick kind of, well, the first thing is composition. So just getting a flow for the buildings and how they look. So large angled buildings that are kind of a little more futuristic and advanced and high tech, having more kind of just modern era office buildings, and then having older brick kind of structures that you would see from like 1950s, 1940s, 1930s, that a lot of those kind of older historic areas you find in like Boston or New York areas that have preserved those old buildings. And then we really tried to kind of hybridize some of that approach. And then we just have kind of very current looking buildings that you would see. And then of course you have to have generic structures like parking garages and just other more simplistic structures to help add contrast and help the more flavorful things of the city stand out. So just some kind of notes for environmental design when you are approaching that. Ways to add contrast. If you make everything colorful and everything bright and everything flavorful, you're going to lose and diminish some of the overall flavor just because there's no contrast to things. So think about that when you're thinking about environments, is just the contrast of stuff. So then the next kind of phase was just kind of the overall color blocking. So what colors work and what reads well. Readability is really important, especially in a game that we're doing that's has a more cell shaded, tune shaded art style, and is targeted more towards a younger audience, and is in VR. So all these things need to have high readability, high legibility, which you have to use colors and contrast and shapes to get that readability out in games. And so that was the next phase of the city. It was kind of blocking that out and what delivers the highest readability and ultimately improves the gameplay and satisfaction overall and believability of the world. So one thing is the green that I've used in the city is a kind of highlight key color that shows you where enemies are going to be coming from, enemy locations, because green is kind of the enemy color in this game. So as you're playing the game, you look around, you can spot the bright green here. Kind of going back along the sides here, kind of down these lanes, and then there's going to be some from over here. And I'm still deciding a little bit more on how to steer that part of it. But that shows you the drop points of the enemies and where you'll be kind of being attacked from. And those are kind of your lanes that you'll have to manage. So using color in that way to drive the player and drive a gameplay mechanic is a really helpful and useful way to approach environment design, level design. The same way with the white, which is kind of represents the high-tech stuff, is actually a slightly tinted blue, bright white, and that kind of bounces your eye around and leads your eye throughout the scene. Now obviously this stuff is still rough and still has quite a bit of ways to go and grow and mature into becoming a developed city and art style, and there's still lighting is by no means final. This is just very stripped down basic stuff so that I can read what's going on quickly, and that we are thinking about lighting, and we are using lighting in a way that also steers the player around the environment to look into key areas where enemies will be spawning at and things like that, but we haven't given any kind of proper lighting pass in any way. So right now we're still definitely in the very early stages of blocking things out. It's good to kind of iterate and balance things as you go, instead of like having the approach of just modeling everything base stuff and then refine those models and then getting them in, which is all well and good. But then, if you're not focusing at least some time in lighting and some time in your colors and very basic blocking from it and more of that side, then you're going to not get a kind of overall impression of how everything is developing as a whole, instead of if you're just focusing on one area, one pillar per se, then you're kind of missing out on these other areas that are going to need attention. So if you can kind of constantly level them all up at the same time, it all grows together, and you see things how they fit together and react together better. Unfortunately, I don't have the lighting in here because it's not built. I should have built it beforehand, but that will give you a more complete picture of how things are developing. It also allows the ability to kind of be at a more playable and presentable state as you go, instead of kind of being at this awkward state where like this is finished but these things aren't, so it's more difficult to show in meetings and investors and stuff like that. So if you're doing everything all at once and kind of lifting everything all at one to the same kind of quality bar, then it helps in those cases for presentability and also just your own development and world building, and for the team too, to see how everything's progressing. It allows for quicker iteration, at least in my studies it has. So then, let me look over my cheat sheet here. Whoops, sorry guys. So yeah, so the next steps for the city would definitely be to start blocking out lighting a little bit more, start refining the buildings more after we've got the key shapes in, and just adding more of kind of the detail, because so far at this point it works from a playability standpoint and just from a readability standpoint. So just add more diversity. You know, instead of having every single background building be the same, obviously we're going to have a variety of different background buildings and use some different tricks on both the material ends and the modeling end to add that diversity, which I'll do another video on how we're approaching the actual like structure building of the city, which is also using a bit of a hybrid technique. But yeah, just giving an overall detail pass to things, so to get it to that kind of next phase. So yeah, so that's the city and how it's progressing. I hope you guys are enjoying that. And then next up is the weapon, which I'll show you guys. So really quick preface right before I open the weapons, just that Daniel is our modeler, and he's doing all the modeling animation for the enemy designs and the weapon designs, and he's really awesome. Daniel Peterson, you guys should check him out as Ocean Daniel on ArtStation. He does some really cool stylized work. But anyways, this is the latest weapon we have. And we have a whole set of weapons. We don't want to reveal those yet. We don't want to give away too much of the direction and the styling. Now this is by no means a finished product here. We're still a couple more phases of refining, and they're going to do some really fun and cool animations. But the general approach to the weapons are that they're all non-conventional and very kind of junk built, hacked together, mad scientist type weapons, which again fits into the lore, which I won't go into too much yet, because I imagine we'll have some videos dedicated to just the lore and just the world building of the game, for those of you that are more interested in kind of the story building aspects. But this is a dual cylinder 2-stroke pistol design. So it's a gas-powered pistol, and this is your starting weapon in the game. So if your starting weapon is already this crazy, you can kind of only imagine and wonder what the next weapons are going to be, as far as their ridiculousness. So definitely over the top is part of the name of the game here. This large, oversized, feels really bulky when you hold it in reviewing it in VR. And we'll have a good chook 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 sound to it, and as the player fires the triggers, it'll pull each cylinder, and you can kind of increase your fire rate to change the engine sounds, which is pretty fun. So lots of fun stuff we can play around there with sounds and experimenting with that kind of stuff. So definitely very excited to get this in game and start killing some bunnies from Mars. So very excited for that. So anyways, that's really kind of it. And then there's a lot more we want to show you guys, that we're limited on time, and we also want to keep some stuff hidden for the time being to kind of reveal stuff at a slower pace, and just kind of space stuff out a little bit more. So it's a little more logical for us, and I think even for you guys too. It's more digestible. You don't have to have long videos. So hope you guys are doing well, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.